2019年第9條題目咧係有關於生態系統嘅，咁題目咧就研究福壽螺，咁福壽螺源自於南非啦，咁首先入口亞洲國家咧就俾人食用嘅，但係啦一部分嘅福壽螺咧就逃離咗去到當地嘅濕地嘅生境啦。咁啊，以下嘅數據咧就顯示咗福壽螺啦，同埋當地某一種螺就係 K 咧，一個分開飼養同埋一起飼養嘅情況底下啦，佢哋嘅平均生長速率嘅。咁而家第一部分咧就問我哋啦，參考翻以上嘅數據啦，當福壽螺逃入去到濕地生境嘅時候啦，對當地生境嘅螺 K 咧嘅族群會有啲咩嘅變化呢？利用翻個數據咧去支持我哋嘅答案嘅。咁既然要用圖表數據啦，自不然又考緊我哋全視技能啦，用翻一個閱讀圖表嘅能力啦。今次閱讀圖表入面嘅數據啦，所以你見到咧紅色線同藍色線間咗俾你哋去睇，就係隨住時間過去，螺 K 同埋福壽螺佢哋嗰個質量嘅變化。咁當然我哋就要比較一下分開飼養同埋一起飼養嘅時候啦，佢哋個平均質量嘅改變啊，有冇唔同呢？然後啦，我哋就要將呢個質量嘅改變，將佢概念化成為成長嘅速度。除咗閱讀圖表呢個能力之外啦，都考我哋一啲概念嘅，就係有關於生態互動啦，捕獵啊、競爭啊、遍利共生、互利共生或者寄生。福壽螺同埋呢個螺 K 係啲咩嘅關係呢？咁啊，一齊嚟睇下成條題目嘅思考鷹架啦。一開始咧，你就要利用數據概念化咗佢。我哋知得到福壽螺同埋螺 K， 當我哋分開養或者一齊養，佢哋個平均嘅生長速度有啲咩嘅不同呢？先睇下分開飼養嘅情況啦。當分開飼養嘅時候咧，福壽螺佢嘅成長速率咧係會比螺 K 咧為之快嘅。但係如果將佢哋一齊養嘅時候咧，福壽螺同埋螺 K 佢哋嘅成長速度都係慢咗嘅。去到第二步，我哋就要指出佢哋嘅生態互動嘅關係啦。咁原來啦，佢哋咧係一個競爭關係。點解啊？因為競爭關係係一個雙輸嘅情況。用數據都好直接嘅啫。分開飼養嘅時候，佢哋嘅成長速率咧就係用咗5個月去到6點幾，5個月佢就去到2點幾。但係去到一起飼養嘅時候咧，福壽螺用咗5個月上到4點幾，OK 咧就只係去到1點幾。咁兩個數字好明顯係跌咗嘅。原來當我哋一齊養嘅時候咧，佢哋就應該似乎爭緊啲嘢食啊，爭緊住嘅地方啊。咁可能你會問嘅，唔係梁 Sir， 福壽螺佢爭贏嘅喎，係啊，爭贏咗啫。你諗下，當初佢自己獨立養嘅時候，佢可以成長去到6點幾嘅質量嘅，而家去到4點幾嘅質量嘅，佢係咪比之前已經差咗啊？所以當我哋要理解競爭點解係雙輸嘅話呢，係話將佢哋兩個擺埋一齊，咁樣比較邊個贏邊個輸。如果你就係執着於唔係福壽螺贏咗，螺 K 輸咗，你當咗佢做正負呢，咁就係一個錯嘅概念啦。咁當我哋知道咗啦，呢個福壽螺同埋螺 K 有人贏時有人輸，咁就代表住咩意思呢？你就會知道螺 K 呢，當我哋同個福壽螺一齊養嘅時候呢，佢嗰個質量嘅變化係跌得好誇張嘅。又或者啦，螺 K 嘅成長速率呢就會慢過之前啦，佢哋都唔能夠到達一個成熟嘅狀態去進行繁殖啦。當然去到最後尾就要答翻問題啦。當福壽螺入侵咗呢個濕地嘅生境，對於螺 K 嘅族群有啲咩嘅變化呢？就係螺 K 嘅族群呢，佢係會減少咗，佢係會細咗嘅。好，跟住去到 Part B 啦，福壽螺呢原來係可以好快速咁樣去食咗濕地入面嘅植物嘅，尤其是食嘅幼芽同埋嫩葉。咁題目就問我哋啦，點解福壽螺呢一個嘅攝食嘅習慣，你對於當地嘅濕地生境咧嘅群落會產生不良嘅影響嘅？咁成條題目第一樣要諗嘅就係幼芽同埋嫩葉有咩嘅重要性？幼芽啦就係做營養繁殖啦，葉啦當然係做光合作用啦。咁所以最基本咧你要知道啦，長遠嚟講咧，所以啦我哋分兩個導向啦。長遠嚟講咧，植物係唔能夠成長去到成熟嘅狀態去繁殖啦。第二啦，植物嘅成長都係會慢咗，點解呢？咁啊，因為整嘢食都整得少咗啊嘛。咁但係啦，呢個就只係講緊對棵植物自己嘅影響啫。即係例如話啦，植物嘅族群嘅數量就會減少啦。呢一啲植物啦或者生產者嘅生物質量亦都會下降啦，因為整少咗嘢食啊嘛。但係題目係問緊你對於整個群落嘅影響，所以你就唔單止要提植物，亦都要提一啲動物啦。植物係生產者，生產者就製造嘢食，就俾啲消費者。咁所以啦，對於動物嚟講呢，佢哋會少咗嘢食啦。 又或者一啲植物生到咁上下高、咁上下大棵嘅時候呢，對於啲動物嚟講都係一個棲息嘅地方嚟嘅。又或者我哋從個葉去做光合作用去理解，整少咗嘢食，咁對於草食性生物同埋其他動物呢嘅嘢食嘅提供呢都會少咗啦。除咗福壽螺之外呢，其實海膽呢都係會引致生態危機嘅。就係因為咧，佢會食光咗喺個海洋入面嘅水草啊！水草唔淨止俾海膽食噶嘛，其他嘅動物都會食海草噶嘛，就會引致到呢個水域咧嘅生態系統咧受到干擾啦。翻留言區咧，我都會擺翻一啲資料咧，有關於海膽食光啲海草嘅，咁啊俾大家知多少少生態系統嘅例子，去答翻唔單止 ecosystem 嘅題目，亦都答下你哋 elective 2 applied ecology 應用生態學嘅題目啦。之後就 pass 啦。除咗上述以外嘅原因啦，即係福壽螺咧去食咗啲植物嘅幼芽嫩葉之外啦，你就要提出另外一個生物嘅因素，可以去解釋翻點解入口嘅物種會變成入侵性同埋優勢嘅物種呢？題目呢又係考緊我哋有關於生態互動嘅概念啦。第二啦就係考我哋有關於優勢物種嘅概念啦。優勢物種就係喺個群落當中，佢係能夠有一個大一啲嘅影響力，去控制住喺呢個群落嘅組成部分啦，同埋佢哋嘅多樣性嘅。所以喺呢度想提大家嘅呢，就係一樣嘢叫做雙向思考啦。我哋有咩辦法去解釋得到一隻生物、一隻物種佢哋嗰個數量係會不斷咁提升嘅呢？當中你就要諗翻一個概念叫適者生存咯。佢有兩個導向，一就係佢生存得下來，冇人殺到佢，除咗唔會俾人殺死生存下來之外呢，最緊要嘅就係你能夠繁衍你嘅下一代，令到你呢個物種嘅數量可以得以提升嘅。所以啦，我哋答案呢有兩個導向啦，就係喺當地嘅生境呢係冇一個天敵嘅存在，或者佢哋嘅繁殖速度亦都非常之快。就例如啦，澳洲呢，我哋有呢個甘蔗蟾蜍，當初啲人呢就引入呢個甘蔗蟾蜍呢，就係食甘蔗上面嘅害蟲嘅。但係喺澳洲呢個地方呢，就冇甘蔗蟾蜍嘅天敵喎，例如蛇啦、鰻魚啦呢啲生物呢，其實都係食甘蔗蟾蜍嘅。點知澳洲冇啊嘛，所以啦，佢哋就可以不斷咁繁衍啦。留言區呢，我都留翻一個資料俾大家啦，去理解下甘蔗蟾蜍對於澳洲嘅生境有啲咩嘅影響啦。咁跟住去到 part D 咧，就指出一個人為嘅活動，去引致到香港受到入口物種嘅侵害嘅。咁有啲咩嘅人為活動呢？咁有3個例子俾大家嘅。咁啊頭2個有關於放生啦，而第3個咧就係一啲種植外來嘅植物嘅。咁例如啦，有啲主人咧就唔能夠啦，或者唔想再飼養呢啲寵物啦，就將佢放生啦。又或者啦，因為宗教原因啦，就將一啲外來嘅生物咧都放生喺度自然嘅生境啦。又或者當我哋種植外來植物嘅時候咧，植物嘅種子就經過種子嘅散播咧，就傳到去自然嘅生境啦。過往咧，香港都有類似嘅情況嘅，就有啲人咧唔養啲魚啊，或者唔養啲龜咧，就將佢掉落去個公園嗰啲水池嗰樹啊。大家睇翻留言區咧，我都會放翻一啲新聞咧，係有關於放生嘅。咁喺香港究竟啲人會放生啲咩嘅動物？去啲咩嘅地方呢？好，又嚟到一點出發啦。今次嘅題目咧就講生態研習嘅，考2樣嘢啦，生態互動啦，同埋人類嘅活動嘅，例如打獵啦。咁當中咧想提大家2個概念啦，一個係 overhunting 過度狩獵啦，係又捉唔係又捉，即使佢係年幼嘅生物咧，你都打死埋佢。又或者啦 by catching， 即係 by catching 就即係意外捕撈，其實你唔想捕撈佢嘅，但係你唔覺意咯，即係好似個英文字 by product 副產品啊嘛，呢個就 by catching 啦。而啦，有啲漁夫佢哋捉魚咧就用拖網形式嘅，當然啦會捉到一啲大魚啦，但係細嘅魚其實你唔一定想捉嘅，你又捉埋佢。又或者捉咗隻海龜啊，捉咗隻海豚啊，其實你唔係想捉佢噶嘛，都意外地捕撈咗佢。而喺個咁大嘅漁網俾人拖網拖住嘅時候咧，佢哋有機會互相擠壓啊、受傷啊，甚至死亡啊。拉咗上去隻船，發現啦，哎呀，有隻海豚俾我捉咗上嚟，跟住死咗添。咁點算啊？掉翻落海咯。嗱，掉翻落海咧，感覺上好似冇乜嘢嘅，咪可以將啲養分掉翻落個生態環境咯。問題就係你真係少咗一隻海豚，就係少咗一隻海豚噶啦嘛。你掉翻落個海度，唔會令到個海多咗一隻活嘅海豚噶嘛，因為佢已經死咗啦嘛，係咪？第二啦，就係釋放或者放生啦。咁例如啦，嗰個甘蔗蟾蜍咧，我哋就唔係放生嘅，係真係特登釋放引入去澳洲，就係食嗰啲食甘蔗嘅昆蟲害蟲嘅。但係點知佢自己都成為咗澳洲嘅害蟲咁解啫。咁呢個就係生態災難啦。跟住去到第3咧，就係捕捉同釋放啦。 又唔係純粹捉咗你，又唔係純粹放咗你，係捉咗你之後放翻你。咁呢個咧係一個好典型嘅保育生物多樣性嘅方法啦。嗱，有啲科學家咧想去研究下喺某一個水域佢嗰度生存嘅鯨魚，佢哋嘅數量有咩變化，或者佢哋游到邊度㗎？就係先將啲鯨魚捉咗佢，放翻一個全球定位系統咧，打喺佢哋嘅身體嗰處。從而啦，就將佢再釋放翻，我哋就可以經過翻個 GPS 咧，去追蹤翻究竟佢哋游到邊度啦，捉咗幾多，釋放咗幾多，究竟我哋而家有幾多隻呢個鯨魚啦？又或者啦，野生嘅生物重新引入啦，啲動物學家啦，佢就喺野外咧，其實就見到一啲啦，哇，可能父母親死咗，所剩低嘅一啲幼年嘅生物，咁我哋就將佢帶翻研究所啦，養咗佢先啦，養完之後啦。因為佢當初咁年幼，又冇人照顧佢，好快會死噶嘛，俾人食咗去，或者自己餓死咗。咁我哋養完之後啦，我哋就將佢重新引入翻個野生嘅環境嗰處，都係一個保育嘅方法。咁呢隻被馴養過嘅生物，究竟出到野外啦，佢有冇一個基本嘅生存能力呢？真係未知之數。當中呢，亦都係曾經有人去拗過嘅。你咁樣養法啊，佢都唔識得自己揾嘢食啦。咁會唔會提供啲訓練俾佢呢？又或者啦，咁當初你就唔好鬼捉佢咯，真係天生天養咯。咁但係嗰啲生物如果真係瀕臨絕種嘅，咁我哋去拯救下佢又不無道理喎，係咪？生態互動啦，都係呢幾款噶啦。咁當然啦，亦都要提下大家生態位嘅概念啦。合唔同嘅概念呢，題目就問我哋優勢物種啦。對於生態位嚟講啦，每一款嘅生物佢哋有冇佢哋嘅天敵呢？又或者當我哋談及優勢物種嘅時候啦，大家記唔記得適者生存呢個概念呢？ 2019 question 9 is about the ecological study. Apple snail originated from South Africa. It was first imported to the Asian country for human consumption. However, it escaped to the local wetland habitat. Below are the data regarding the average growth rate of apple snail and a local snail species K when they were raised separately and raised together. And for part A, with reference to the above data, what would happen to the population of snail K in the wetland habitat once the apple snail have escaped to this habitat? Support your answer with data from the graphs. This question surely is checking us the cyanotic skills. How can we read the graph? And we need to compare the average snail mass of the apple snail and the snail K when they are raised separately and together. So you can see that the red line and the blue line, it shows the average snail mass. And then we need to conceptualize the change of the snail mass into the growth rate. Apart from the skills, this question also checking us the concept about the ecological interaction, predation, competition, commensalism, mutualism, and the parasitism. And let's take a look at the scaffolding of this question. First of all, you need to conceptualize the data and point out the difference in the average growth rate of the apple snail and the snail K when they are raised separately and together. So there are two dimensions. The first dimension, we can talk about they are raised separately. Apple snail had a higher growth rate when raised separately from snail K. So you can see the red line and the blue line. Within 5 months, the apple snail, their average snail mass, they increased to 6 point something. And then for the snail K, just increased to 2 point something. Or the other dimension we can talk about when they are raised together. Both apple snail and snail K showed a lower growth rate when they were raised together. So any relationship between them, so they are in competition relationship because both of them are harmed. They are competing the food, the shelter in this local wetland habitat. So from the graph, how can we see that? Because you can see that both apple snail and snail K show a lower growth rate when they were raised together. So what is the implication of the data to demonstrate the relationship? Because the growth rate of the snail K will be slower and some of them would fail to reach the maturity for reproduction. Or from the data, the growth rate of the snail K fell significantly when raised together with the apple snail. Finally, we need to answer the question, what would happen to the population of snail K in the wetland habitat once the apple snail have escaped to this habitat? So we can see that the population of snail K would fall or would decline. For part B, it has been noted that apple snail consume the wetland plants at a high rate, especially the buds and the young leaves. Suggests why the feeding habit of the apple snail may have an adverse effect, negative effect on the community of the local wetland habitat. So first of all, you need to recall the importance of the bud and the young leaves. For the bud, they are important for the reproduction, for example, vegetative propagation, and for the leaves, surely they are important for the photosynthesis, for the food production. So in long term, the plant would fail to reach maturity for reproduction, or in short term, the plant would grow more slowly because they cannot make sufficient amount of food. But this is just about the plants. If the plants they are consumed, there must be adverse effect on the wetland plants. However, the question is about the adverse effect on the community of the local wetland habitat. That means you do not only mention the plant, but also the animals. So we talk about reduce the size of the plant community in the habitat. This would reduce the food availability and shelter for other animals. Or you can say that in short term, the biomass of the producer, the plants, would decrease. And this would reduce the food availability for other herbivores or the animal. You need to talk about other organisms in this community. One extra example is about the sea urchin overgrazing of the seagrasses. So for the seagrasses, they are also the food for other organisms. So the seagrasses, they are very dense, and then it also provide a shelter for the animals. And for part C, apart from the above, that means the apple snail consume wetland plants at a high rate, suggests another biotic factor, which may explain why an imported species would turn into an invasive or dominant species. This question is checking us the ecological interaction again, and it also checks us the concept of dominant species. The dominant species is the species in the community that exert strong control over the composition and diversity of the community. And for this question, I need to introduce you the two-way thinking for the increase of the population. And you need to recall the concept of survival of the fittest. The basic idea is about these two concepts, survival and reproduction. Of the natural predator in the local habitat, or this species has a high rate of reproduction. And the example is the cane toad. So they are in the Australia, and at the very beginning, the cane toad, they are introduced into Australia to feed on the insect, the pests, which is eating the sugar cane. However, there is no natural predator in Australia. Therefore, the population size of the cane toad increased rapidly. And for part D, suggests one human activity may lead to an invasion of the imported species in Hong Kong. And there are 3 examples for you. Release of the imported pests, release of the imported organism, or bringing in non-local seed or plants. Why do the people release the imported pests or the organism? When the owners cannot or do not want to keep them anymore, or they release the organism for religious purpose, or they bring in the non-local seed or plants which then reproduce and spread to the wild habitat through seed dispersal. You can see in the comment section, I will attach some link for you about the sea urchin and some cases of releasing the organism into the local habitat in Hong Kong. So let's talk about the curriculum mapping. This question starts from the ecological study, and there are 2 concepts we are checking: ecological interaction and the human activity. So for the human activity, we can talk about the hunting, overhunting, and bycatching. What does it mean, the bycatching? It's just like the byproduct. That's something we do not want, but we really catch them by catching. For example, for the fishing, there is a very big fish net and then catch a lot of fish, but they may be the small size juvenile fish, or they may be the small size juvenile fish, or we accidentally catch the sea turtle or a dolphin. So after we bring the net back to the ship, and then we find that, oh, there is a dolphin, there is a turtle. So, however, they died already. Oh, so what can I do? Oh, fold the dead body back to the sea. So you may think that the material, the resources in the dead body can be recycled. However, there is already -1 dolphin, -1 sea turtle in the nature. And then we talk about the release of the imported organism to the local habitat, so it may lead to ecological disaster. Last but not least, we talk about the capture and release. It is a way for the biodiversity conservation. For example, we are going to observe the population size or change of a group of whale, so we capture them and then we inject a chips with the GPS to monitor their movement, where do they go, or how many of them are in that particular area. So it's a way for us to understand the organism more. Example, some ecologists, they are searching around in a wild habitat, and then they find that maybe some juvenile wildlife, their parent die, and no one is taking care of this juvenile. So that's why we capture them, and then they grow up, and then we reintroduce this organism, go back to the wildlife. For the ecological interaction, I think that you are familiar with these 5 types of relationship. And I also would like to grab this chance to ask you to do the revision about the niche. We combine all the concepts together. The question asks you about the dominant species. For example, when we talk about the niche, any natural predator for a particular organism. Or when we talk about the dominant species, we talk about the two-way thinking. We talk about the two-way thinking, survival and the reproduction. So at that moment, you need to recall the concept of survival of the fittest.